Hi, welcome to the channel again. This is the second part of our video on immigration and specifically the challenge that the UK faces, and we're going to make some comparisons between the UK and other nations throughout the world. So let's get right to it. So, the vast majority of these immigrants, both legal and illegal, receive a salary of just $365 per month. But there are three fundamental differences that separate immigration in Malaysia to that of Canada, Australia, and indeed the UK, and it's quite shocking. The vast majority, the legal immigrants in Malaysia can only work for the employer that applied for their permit, and those contracts will be a minimum of 5 years, no matter the working conditions. Okay? If the employee doesn't like it, well, tough, because they require their employers to allow them to go back, and that just doesn't happen. They will get 2 days off per month and work, generally speaking, 10 hours per day, and that works out at about $1.80 per hour. Now, despite this, however, many are happy to continue and stay even longer. But, and here's where the real difference occurs between how things happen in Malaysia and others. Generally speaking, the immigrants go to Malaysia to earn money. Accommodation is provided by the companies that employ them, but you'll have at least 6 people in a standard box room equivalent in the UK. Food, unless you're in that sort of industry, well, that's at the worker's expense. But now for the pied de la résistance, these workers repatriate almost their entire salary. They contribute very little to the local economy. Why? Well, because there is absolutely zero chance of them being given permanent status. They know that they will be forced to go back to their own country. So there is no incentive upon them to open bank accounts, save money, buy a car, buy a house, buy anything. They know they're going to go back. So though they have massive immigration and their economy completely depends on it, they go around in a vicious circle, because the immigrant workers do not invest back into the economy. Okay? Now, finally, we come to the UK. Now, everybody has an opinion on immigration. Some are for and some are against, but almost all have an opinion. So let's get into it, shall we? We are all aware that there have been some issues of shortages of labour in particular industries as a result of Brexit. That's not news. Some amongst us ignore it, which is stupid, and others jump on it as an opportunity to support their ideology. Again, also a little bit naive. But no matter what anyone says, we are still aware that things do take some time to bed down and for an industry to find a workable solution. The UK has adopted a points-based immigration system based broadly on the same terms as the Australian model, which seems to have worked for Australia so far. However, the attraction of Australia is very different to that of the UK. Australia is regarded as perhaps one of the most accepting of different cultures, no matter the background, with a deep respect for all creeds, colour and ethnicities. It is where one can make one's fortune with the other race. Now that, unfortunately, can no longer be applied to the UK, or that is the perception. You see, the UK has been in the business of immigration for centuries, and it was a business unlike any others because it was needed in order to support the empire. And the story that was told to the colonies meant that immigrants would be happy to come here and were welcome to come here. Now, under the British Nationality Act of 1948, British subjects were described as any citizen of the United Kingdom, its colonies, or other Commonwealth countries. And in effect, all Commonwealth citizens had an automatic right to settle in the United Kingdom, primarily because all of those Commonwealth citizens could have been conscripted or volunteered to join the war effort in from 39 onwards. Now, but as the colonies broke away and gained independence, the UK was basically caught in her own propaganda. Luckily, however, the enormous cost of travel combined with less than comfortable modes of transport really kept this issue at bay. But when world transport changed, so did everything else. But there had been examples of what could occur. That had already been seen. You see, in a very sparsely populated frontier area in Hong Kong known as Santin, 85 to 90% of males left for the United Kingdom between 1955 and 1962. In just 7 years, they came from Hong Kong to work in British factories, foundries, railways, buses, hotels, restaurants, all of the jobs that the British people didn't want. But things were about to change as international travel made its impact, and the UK had to act. It had to go back on what they'd promised. Immigration was first restricted by Parliament by the Commonwealth Immigration Act of '62, which imposed immigration controls on subjects originating from outside the British Islands, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Now, this was, however, amended by the 1971 Act for 3 reasons. One was that the UK needed a workable policy that did not infringe on the rights of now UK citizens who had come in before '62 and come in quite a lot. The UK was about to join the EEC, and with equal rights on the cards to all EEC citizens, the UK's policy needed to be fixed, and fixed quickly. Harold Winsel's government proposed the Commonwealth Immigration Act of '68, but he did it in a literal response to a threat of 200,000 Asian immigrants being forced to leave Kenya due to its attempt at the time of what they called Africanization in 1967. This was so serious that the act was passed in just 3 days, and partly due to the support and fierce drive of the then Home Secretary, James Callaghan, who was later to become Prime Minister. This broke from the non-discriminatory earlier immigration policy. The UK government saw a need to appease Canada, New Zealand and Australia over possible negative impacts on them when Britain would join the EEC. That would be harder on people who had emigrated from Britain, expecting continued close ties. Now, since then, however, UK citizens had the right to sponsor other relatives, and they did so in vast numbers. You see, the majority of immigrants arrived in the UK with all their documents in place up until the late 70s because A, they were entitled to do it, B, though travel was more affordable, and at the time it was a massive sum of money to those traveling from other colonies, you couldn't take the risk of being turned away, so they made sure everything was right. Now some UK politicians have focused heavily on the Channel boat people, their loud calls to leave the European Convention of Human Rights, the ECHR, because Brexit means out, out, out from under the shackles, I add, of the EU. This is absolute and utter, complete nonsense. Nonsense. Let us be crystal and as positively clear as a sunny midsummer's morning. The ECHR is not and never was under the control or the authority of the EEC or the EU. The European Convention on Human Rights, the ECHR, which is often referred to by stupid politicians, is an international human rights treaty between the 47 states that are members of the Council of Europe and has nothing to do with the EU. But to sum things up in today's terms, it's estimated by those who are completely anti-immigration that up to 7,000 people came across the channel illegally last year, and that represents 0.0001% of the UK's population. So it's hardly an invasion. Now, with regard to the HGV drivers, I've also produced another video on that. I haven't published it yet, so it'll be out shortly, that you may want to look at. Listen, thanks for watching, and don't forget to do the thing with the bell yoke and that big red subscribe rectangle-y thing. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much.